Welcome everybody. This is our second episode of I'll Just Talk. My name is Aja Atwood. I'm the CEO and one of two co-founders of Trella Technologies. And welcome to the Trella Technologies lab. Right behind me I have our version 5 of our TrellaGro LST. It's the only automated plant training system. It's basically an automated scrogger. For those cannabis growers that are out there that know those terms, scrog, it's an auto scrogger, and we'll talk a little bit more about that over the course of this live. But thank you very much for taking the time out of your night after eating some dinner maybe, or wherever you might be waking up in the morning for checking this out. We've got some awesome topics to talk about, of which I'm combining two of my favorite topics, cannabis and climate change. And I really want to share why that's important to me, and we're going to talk about some other things as well. But Trella Technologies, if you're new to the company, we're all about sustainable farming techniques. We're all about the indoor farming movement, modern farming, helping out with urban food deserts, helping out with cannabis growers that have limited space and are trying to be innovative about the way that they grow. What we've done is we developed the world's first automated plant training system. I'm the CEO, co-founder, but behind this face, behind me, is a series of a multitude of people. We've got a team of several individuals. I talked about my co-founder, Andres Chamorro III. Dre and I met at Northeastern University, got together, invented and designed this system. And we've been working on this for over the series of about 2.5 years. This is our 5th version. If you're new to what we're up to and you want to know a little bit more about the history of the company, please feel free to check out our Facebook page. We've been on Facebook for about a year, dropping some stuff about what we've been up to. We also have a YouTube channel, so we're going to be putting this live episode on that YouTube channel. And we also have the very first episode 1. So for those individuals that may have missed the last episode number 1, we did an overview of a lot of different topics. It was about a 45-minute long session. We covered a lot of topics. So now what we're going to be doing on the next few episodes is delving into those topics a little bit more and allowing you to ask some questions and to follow along and participate in the conversation. So I'm really thrilled to share more about this. It's been a process. These things don't happen overnight. So we're really happy to be able to show the device and talk a lot more about what we're up to in the company. I want to introduce, are we good, Ash, to get going?
We're good to go.
All right, good. Actually, before I introduce Ash, 1 second, Ash, my apologies. I wanted to highlight something very important. This shirt that I'm wearing, this shirt right here, is a shirt that I received from my friend Mickey Bennett from Healing Tree Edibles. Healing Tree Edibles is a CBD edible company. They really specialize in all types of things in edibles, but they really specialize in pet treats. My dog uses their CBD treats. Healing Tree Edibles was located in Massachusetts. They were in Massachusetts, but unfortunately they were having such a hard time with the regulations and especially the recent CBD issues that we're experiencing here that they relocated to Maine. And I wanted to congratulate Healing Tree Edibles because once they relocated to Maine, I just found out this week that they received the only license in their town of Warren, Maine, to be a medical marijuana dispensary. So big ups, mad shout out, mad love to Healing Tree Edibles for really, I think, following their intuition and just knowing when it was time to go in a different direction. And it seems to be working out well for her. So congratulations to the team over there at Healing Tree Edibles. It's a little bit harder for me to get my CBD treats once you get your online store up and going, but I'll see you in Maine and we'll reconnect. Mickey, good job. So I also wanted to also talk about the team. The way that we did this before, we called this episode I'll Just Talk. Really because we just figured that we're going to cover a lot of topics, and to try to stick to one title would be hard. And quite frankly, I don't like scripting a lot. I don't like reading off of a teleprompter or having a script directly in front of me. I like to kind of just talk about the topics as they come up. So that's what we're going to do. For this episode, we did stick to just 2 topics we're going to cover today. So there's a little bit of structure to this one, not like there was before, but I still have the freedom to just kind of go in different directions, and you have the freedom to ask questions and to participate as well. So with that being said, I have Ash. Ash is here to help moderate the discussion. You'll hear him in the background. You can hear his voice. and I can see him on screen. Most of the team that I work with are remote. We do have some people that work in Massachusetts, but we have people that don't work in Massachusetts, and Ash is one of them. So Ash, what do we have on the docket for today?
Yes, on the docket today, well, I'm Ash from Complimentation. I'm here with Chrissy, and Chrissy will be on the comments. So if you have any questions, go ahead and drop your questions in the comments section now. And if you're just now tuning in or watching this in post-recording, thanks for joining us. Today on the docket, we're going to be talking about climate change, as Aja mentioned earlier, and how it affects the crop cannabis. And we're also going to jump into the plant's progress, the actual plant behind Aja in the device. And then we're going to be open for some Q&A.
Awesome.
So how about we get started with climate change?
Yep.
And one of the questions that I have for you, Aja, personally, why do you think, why do you personally care about climate change and how it affects cannabis?
Well, good question. So for me, the effects of climate change are obvious, and I think it's obvious for me because of my background. Before I got into cannabis, I was heavy into evaluating ways to try to minimize the damage from natural catastrophes. Natural catastrophes like natural disasters, earthquakes, hurricanes, floods, hail, tornadoes, all those things. And over time, I've been doing that for about 15 years before I got into the cannabis space. And one thing, just a side note, for those people that are trying to figure out a way to participate in the industry, and I say that because I get comments from a lot of peers and friends that are like, hey, how do I get into the space? I'm not really in cannabis, but I may grow on the side, or I believe in the plant and I want to advocate for it. Almost everybody that's in the cannabis industry right now probably came from some sort of other industry, because you really couldn't, 5 years before now, you really couldn't participate in the industry to a great extent. So everyone had a side gig and did cannabis, as well. So for me, my primary gig was natural catastrophes, and I saw over the series of 15 years how the frequency and the intensity of all of these natural catastrophes are really starting to affect not just businesses, but people's lives. I've been on the ground. I've seen what it looks like after a major flood. I've been there. I've seen people crying. I've seen the devastation after hurricanes. I've seen it, and it's not light. Like if you have been one of those individuals who had that unfortunate experience of going through a natural catastrophe, it's traumatic. It's very traumatic. It affects you personally, but it also affects your livelihood. And as people are starting to get into the cannabis industry and really relying on agriculture to be, their medicine and relying on it to sustain their businesses, it's very important that people understand that the effects of climate change will affect your crop. We can argue about why there's climate change, what's causing climate change, and there's all types of theories out there. I don't know for any of you people that might be into some of the other theories like chemtrails. If you don't know what chemtrails is, look it up. Chemtrails. Some people think that it's actually something that the government's doing. Some people think that it's the end of times. If you're a religious person, you might be into the Book of Revelations and you're like, yep, this is exactly what's supposed to happen. It doesn't really matter why you think climate change is occurring, but you can't deny that it is occurring. The world is changing, the climate's changing, the environment is changing, and we got to be on top of it, especially if we want to have a sustainable way to feed ourselves and to heal ourselves. So that's my reason.
So how about we jump into the more scientific side of things? The Cannabis Industry Journal stated that climate disruptions to agriculture have been increasing and are projected to become more severe over this century. Do you have any comments on things like rainfall?
Yeah, I've got comments on rainfall and a few other things. But yeah, I think for the most current issue that I'm dealing with as a grower, and I think a lot of the people in the U.S. are dealing with now, is this rainfall intensity has been out of control. I think this is more rain than we've received in over 125-year period. So that means that you've got soil and standing water, and issues with mold, humidity, and I don't know that there's going to be any stoppage of this, depending on where you live. And that could be in the Midwest, the East Coast, down south. I think the only place that's not really affected by this heavy rain period that we're experiencing is out west, where they're dealing with droughts. That's another issue. But the biggest concern when it comes to rain is overwatering. If you're a plant grower and if you're experienced, or even if you knew, there was always a time when you're growing with soil that you didn't know if you were overwatering your plants. That's the biggest mistake that rookies make. They overwater their plants when they're growing in soil. You think that you need to make sure that the roots never dry out, but that's actually a misconception. Your roots need a lot of oxygen. They need a lot of oxygen. And even the roots that are in the soil require a lot of oxygen. In between all the particles of dirt, there's some air in there, and those roots use that. They need that. So when you saturate the earth with too much water, or if you overwater your plants, you're flushing out all that oxygen and replacing it with H2O. So now you've got 2 parts hydrogen and 1 part oxygen when you had 2 parts oxygen before, not to get too nerdy. But that you flushed out all that oxygen, and now your roots are suffering. They're suffocating. They're not able to take up the nutrients that they need. The other issue that comes up when you overwater your plants is that you now have kind of standing water on the roots. And if you're in a hot weather climate with a lot of heat, or if you're indoors with a lot of heat and water around roots do not mix. It leads to bacteria. If you're an indoor grower and you've done like a deep water culture method where you're growing indoors and you're saturating your roots with water, you know that you need lots of air. You need air stones to kind of aerate that air and to provide oxygen. So the same thing applies to Mother Nature. Like you can have a natural disaster or climate change that's just causing too much water to sit on those roots, and all it takes is 48 hours. If you leave those roots submerged for more than 48 hours, you're really going to cause harm to the plant, to the point where you may lose the entire crop. If you don't lose the entire crop, you're probably going to affect the quality, you're going to affect the yield, and you may also have some more bacteria and pests and things to deal with as well. So that's just one issue. That's just rain.
Right.
But I mean, we also have issues like hurricanes as well.
Right. And wildfires.
Yep, and wildfires. So in those situations where you don't have a lot of rain, if you're in an area with a drought, right? So West Coast, I think 2018 California had a lot of wildfires. 2017 they had a lot of wildfires. My memory serves me correctly, I believe 30 to 40% of California's cannabis industry was affected by wildfires last year because there's not enough rain. So that's another thing to consider. Hurricanes as well. If you're in the southern states along the East Coast, and in Florida, in South Carolina, and North Carolina, there are a lot of people that are doing great things in those areas and getting ready for the hemp boom. There's a lot of land down there. But you should also consider, whether you're growing indoors or outdoors, that you're in a hurricane zone. And the reason why I say for some of these natural disasters, just because you're indoors doesn't mean you're safe. You still have to consider some things. You still have to be aware, and there are things that you can do to really protect yourself. But one of the things that I think people might not understand when it comes to natural disasters, whether you're outdoor or you're indoor, you can get a backup generator. If you lose power during a hurricane, you can get a backup generator, and that can provide some assistance for a couple of days. But they're going to make everybody evacuate, especially these large disasters that we're having. Everybody out. They don't care if you're about to go into harvest with your 200,000 pounds of cannabis, or if you're about to go into harvest with your 30 pounds of cannabis, and that you had people coming in to help you out. Everyone's got to go. They're going to evacuate the entire region. And if the disaster is really that bad, you may not be able to get back into your facility or into your grow for 2 weeks. And in some cases, even longer than that. So to really make sure that even if you're outdoor, make sure that you're not in an area that's kind of prone to some of these natural disasters. If you can be indoors, be indoors. But even if you're indoors, you need to have backup plans, because you're not going to be able to be there after the disaster. So it's really great to have automation for lights, HVAC that can be connected to backup generators, but you also need the people there as well. So having automated solutions will really help people out in regards to trying to get through those natural disasters after the end.
Great. So let's look at the monetary aspect of this type of situation where you're taking in climate change and you're applying it to the cannabis crop. So how do like these natural disasters affect the bottom line? You have in this same article, a major driver in indoors and outdoors, in the indoor-outdoor equation, is that the weather becomes more unfriendly and unpredictable over time because of climate change. And now venture capitalists are factoring climate disruption into their financial projections. How do you see, and what's your take on this?
Yeah, I mean, so natural disasters have effects down the line. It doesn't just affect the region, the people that are in that area. It affects everybody on the outside as well. So one example is you could have, if you have a location, let's say, that was affected and by some sort of a disaster, and you're looking for medicine from them, the prices will go up. Why do the prices go up? The prices go up because there's less supply. If the crop gets wiped out, if there's not that much to go around, people are going to have to raise the prices. And that's going to affect you whether you're the direct consumer purchasing it. It's going to affect you if you're the business that needs that product to do something else with it. So you really have to understand who all the players are and where they're all situated. There's another example. I believe this was in Canada, in Ottawa. There was a flooding event that occurred, and then there was a flood scare. And during the flood scare, the stocks plummeted in the company. Like, this was one of those Canadian cannabis companies that were traded, publicly traded, and there was a scare of a flood, and boom, the stock price plummeted. And the reason why their stock price plummeted as opposed to somebody else's is because they were in a flood zone, and the investors knew about it. So you really have to kind of have an understanding of where, if you're going to be an investor, where that company is located, how much of their crop is actually exposed to some sort of natural catastrophe. If you're a buyer or you're in the industry, are you getting supplies? Are you getting some of your cannabis material from people that might be exposed? I'll tell you one thing, we kind of had a hiccup last year, North Carolina, when they had that hurricane. I had an engineer that was supposed to be delivering some parts to us, and we got delayed by a month because of the hurricane. And I'm all the way up here in Massachusetts, and the hurricane's in North Carolina, but it's affecting my business. So you really have to have an understanding of where, especially if you're relying on a key player or a key supplier, where are they located? Do they have a backup plan? And do you maybe need another supplier just in case something goes on with that? So it really affects investors, patients, consumers, everybody.
And speaking of investors, one of the questions, or one of the bankers in the article stated that greenhouses were the ultimate hedge against bad weather. So I guess if you're exposed with the regular outdoor growing, and then all of a sudden this crazy storm comes in, then the greenhouses, all the companies that have greenhouse growing, would be the ultimate hedge. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know. I don't agree with that statement that a greenhouse is the ultimate hedge against the weather. I think that depends on where you're located. If you're located in an area that's in a hurricane zone, or if you're in a floodplain, a greenhouse is not going to stop that damage from affecting your crop. Depending on where you're located, the best solution is usually a building, an indoor building that's been built in an area that's not flood zone or elevated above the flood zone. That's your ultimate hedge. But quite honestly, with Mother Nature, we don't know what she can do. We've only seen, a little bit of a sampling of it, and it's getting more and more intense over the years. So I would not put all of my faith in a greenhouse. I think it's a great solution to help with everyday environmentals, everyday weather issues, controlling the climate, etc. But it's not going to hedge against a natural catastrophe. And I think indoor farming solutions will probably are best suited to help with that, if you can afford it and if that's what you want to do. There's actually a company in Puerto Rico called Fusion Farms. They're a fellow company on StartEngine, the platform that we use for investment. But Fusion Farms, they're located in Puerto Rico, and they have the hurricane impact rated facility for growing indoor food. Now, they don't do cannabis yet, but I would suspect that there are some cannabis cultivators that are probably knocking on their door to do partnerships, or at least they should, because during Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico, a large amount of medical marijuana dispensaries were affected by the hurricane as well. So an indoor building that's kind of got a nice concrete structure to it, nice steel frame, is probably your best solution.
It makes sense to me. Well, great. Let's go ahead and move forward. I just want to remind everybody who's watching this, whether you're watching it live or if you're watching it live and you're watching a post recording here, you can always head over to StartEngine and check out the terms to become an investor in Trella Technologies, to get in on the ground floor with the ultimate hedge. And we're going to move forward. Hey, Aja, so what's going on with that plant behind you?
Yeah.
And can we get an update on V5 real quick? I have some questions before we even jump into the plant. How about we start here? Let's get an update on the version 5.
Yep.
And also, can you explain where you came up with the name TrellaGro LST?
Where did we come up with the name TrellaGro LST? Yeah, that's a good story. So we didn't have a name for this product probably for about a year and a half. We decided at the very beginning that we wanted to allow people that were excited about us, our early adopters, our fans, to select the name. So back in late 2018, we actually did a Facebook poll where we had a series of about 3 to 4 different names, and we asked the Facebook community to vote on it. And they came up with TrellaGro LST. Now, the reason why I threw that LST in there is because it stands for low stress training. Low stress training. And yes, the device is automated. Yes, it will automatically grow a plant sideways, but that's not, the low stress isn't the fact that it's automated. The low stress is the method that it uses to actually get that plant to grow sideways. Low stress means that you're not using high stress methods, such as trimming, pruning, or being overly manipulative with the plant. You really want to make sure that you're gentle with the plant. When you cut, trim, or prune your plant, you're stressing it and you're changing the anatomy of the plant, and the plant will always take a pause for at least a couple of days, 2 to 3 days, to figure out its new anatomy. Where should I send my water and nutrients? Now that you've removed 5 branches, I got to send that stuff somewhere else, so I'll send it over here. Well, it pauses its growth while it's making those decisions. So you're actually slowing down the growth cycle and creating a system where you've got less harvest, over a series of years. So we like to use the low stress training method because it doesn't stress out the plants and it allows for more consistent and faster growth in order to get a canopy area of this size. So that's where we came up with TrellaGro LST.
Awesome. And so let's look at the plant. How are we doing? So
with that low stress training method, if you saw last episode, if you were on Facebook Live for episode 1, which is about 2 weeks ago, a little bit less than 2 weeks, we were probably at around about 5 inches in this region right here. So we've grown to about 17 inches right now, which means we've done about 12 inches in less than about 12 days. So we're at about an inch a day of growth. We're happy with that. There are situations where we might be able to do better. One of the things that we're going to be able to do though on our next grow is because we're tracking the temperature, the humidity, and the CO2, and we're tracking the temperature and the humidity and CO2, there are actually sensors down in this bottom area that's sensing the temperature, the humidity, and the CO2. So once we're done with this grow, I'll be able to figure out how fast were we growing and what was the best temperature for that, what was the best CO2 and best humidity setting for that. So that's going to be really, really impressive. What I will do is, I'm sure people might, I don't know, Ash, what do you think? Should I open it up a little bit and let people see inside just a bit?
Sure.
All right. So one of the things that we wanted to do was we wanted to make sure that you have access to the plant. So if you wanted to get in there just to check on it, you don't have to, but if you wanted to get in there to check on the plant, if you wanted to get in there to get access to the soil, get access to the water, we made sure that we included these removable panels. So this panel right here comes off. And you can get access to the plant. So we just added a series of buttons. The other thing that I wanted to point out is that this bar right here is completely removable. So once this plant finishes growth all the way to the other side, we'll take the mesh panel off, we'll take this piece off, and we'll let all of those branches stretch up to the light. We got a series of posts, so we're gonna have some trellis netting going across that will help support the flowers once they come up. But when it's time to harvest, which is key, when it's time to harvest, you simply just cut it at the main stem, you remove this bar, and you can take the whole plant out in one piece, if you want to. If you want to cut it in chunks and take it piecemeal, you can, but you do have the option to remove the whole plant out of in this direction right into the camera. So this is how we get access to the plant, and we have mesh panels on all sides that you can get access to. And I'll close that up later.
That is awesome. And in the words of the legendary Jay Sugarman, I think it's looking like we're gonna have ourselves another robust crop.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll wait until maybe episode maybe 7, maybe.
We'll see. We'll see.
Right now, we do have some questions lined up that have come in throughout the week, and one of them are, what dimensions will the units sell in?
Yep. Great question.
And then also, the individual who asked the question mentioned that they have a 3x5 tent, and if they would like to put 2 2x4 units in, and they would like to do it in like a 2-tier system, and so they're worried that how do they stack it with the water and
got you. Good.
underneath each unit?
Yeah, good question. So the individual has a 3-foot by 5-foot grow tent, and they want to use 2 Trello units, and they want to stack them one on top of another. So we have several different sizes that we're going to be offering when we go to the market, and the first is a 2x4, so 2 foot in this dimension and then 4 foot long. So basically, if you're looking at this unit at 4 feet, we're roughly at about here, so we're going to stop where my shoulder is. So you'll have a 2x4 unit. That 2x4 unit will fit nicely in a 3 foot by 5 foot tent, and if you have the height, I don't know, he didn't give me the height of the tent, but if the height of the tent will allow it, and he's using LED lights, you could definitely stack 2 levels on top of one another. Put a rack in that grow tent, one Trello on the bottom, another Trello on the top, and then have a series of LED lights over the top. You can make that work in a grow tent. But one of the things that we also wanted to consider was that, especially when you're growing on multiple levels, you want to make sure that any water or any dirt or debris doesn't come from the top level all the way down and maybe mess up your lights. And in some cases, people grow using what are called flood trays. So those are like, you may have seen them, they're either black or white in color. They're plastic trays that you can put your plants in and either do some sort of an ebb and flow system or a nutrient delivery system into that flood tray. A lot of people like to use that, and we first designed this so that it wouldn't be able to sit in the 2x4 flood tray, but we actually went back to the drawing board after some feedback we received, and we made modifications so that yes, the 2 foot by 4 foot unit will fit in a 2 foot by 4 foot flood tray. We hired an industrial designer to really help and make sure that we thought about this carefully. There are lots of different sizes of 2x4 flood trays. We've got 2x4 flood trays that have a shorter dimension on the interior and then the exterior. It was kind of crazy. But what we're going to be doing in the next few weeks is we're going to be showing you the modifications that we made. And in that design, you'll really see how we really tried to make sure that this can fit inside of flood trays, your typical standard flood trays. So we have a 2x4 unit. We have this unit here, that's a 2 foot by 6 foot unit. And then we're also going for the 2x8. And the 2x8 and the 2x6 are really more for those commercial users, especially the 2x8. Most racks, most shelves, most commercial size racking systems are 8 foot in dimension. So we wanted to make a unit that could fill that whole space. Or you could buy 2 2x4s and put it in that space as well. It's really up to you. And what we plan to do for our residential home growers is we'll make the 2x4 available to residential and home growers. For the larger size units, that will be available to our more commercial users or the people that are buying this in bulk. And we are looking forward to really working with those individuals that need some help with their layout. So if that's you, if you're worried about, all right, I'm interested in this, but I really need to see how would this work in my facility, please contact us. We love trying to figure out those types of, trying to figure out solutions to your problems, and we can make something work.
Awesome, and the Growers Club would probably be a really good place for them to ask questions and to help out, correct?
Yeah, so we also have the Growers Club. It's our community page on Facebook. We have a Facebook page, but we also have the Growers Club. And in the Growers Club, I'll post some pictures there that I don't normally post on the regular Facebook and Instagram channels. So the things that I post there, I'll let them stay there for a bit, and then maybe we'll share them outside. But you're going to be getting access to stuff that other people might not get access to. And when we announce to the public when it's available, we're going to be announcing it there in the Growers Club. So definitely make sure that you check it out. In order to get into the Growers Club, it's very simple. Just shoot us a DM on Facebook, on the Facebook page, and we'll get you into the Growers Club. Or you can go to our website at Trella, Trella.io, Trella.io, and click the Growers Club, and that will get you in there as well. It's a new club. We're trying to build up people. We're trying to get people in there. So the more the merrier. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. You're just going to get access to news sooner than some other people will. So we're really excited about it.
Okay, great. And we have one more question here. It's pertaining to commercial cells, and there was a buyer on the West Coast who was wondering, well, what's the minimum order quantity for commercial cell?
The minimum
How many
order.
cells do they need to purchase?
That's a great question. I would suggest that that individual, depending on where they're located and the size of their facility, contact us. What we're really trying to do is we're trying to be as workable and customizable as we possibly can. And because we're a startup and because we're new, we have that flexibility. So I don't want to put out a number and then scare off someone else. So I would say contact us. We'll make it work.
And then what are the different sizes available also?
So we have the 2x4 unit, which will probably go to right about here, 2x4. It's really great for people that are dealing with 8-foot shelves. You can do two of them back to back. We have a 2x6 unit, and we're also going to be doing a 2x8 as well. So those will be the three sizes. And we're open to customizable sizes as well, depending on the size of the order. So I would just suggest that shoot us an email. If you want to contact us, it's great to DM. That'll get you into the Growers Club. If you want to have a little bit more information about customizable sizes, orders, that's a great place to ask your questions as well. I'm right there. I'm in the Growers Club, so you'll be getting answers from me.
Awesome. And we do have one more question here, buried in the comment section, from Anthony Brown.
Nice.
He said he wants to know, are you doing aeroponics? And is that the best option, hands down?
Oh wow, so we designed this so that you can do aeroponics, hydroponics, or soil. It's up to you. Whatever grow media that you want to use, you can use that in here. Especially when you see the new design, you'll be able to really see past this panel. We removed this panel in our newest design so that you can get access to it a lot easier. I right now have a hydroponic setup in there. You could definitely have an aeroponic setup. I know of individuals that use aeroponic systems and they have really, really, really great results. You use a lot less water with aeroponic. If you're doing like a high pressure type of thing where you're really like just using nozzles and misting the roots while they dangle down, you're just misting water water droplets onto the roots. Those systems do really well, and they also have the fastest growth. I would say in regards to how fast a plant will grow, it helps not to stress it. That definitely helps. Don't stress your plant. Use a low stress training technique. But one of the other things, the soil, depending on the type, can sometimes be the slowest. Hydroponic is a little bit faster, generally speaking. If you're doing a top feed system with hydroponics, that will speed it up a little bit. And then I would say the fastest system that I've seen and that I've experienced has been aeroponic.
Okay, great. Well, I just want to go ahead and thank everybody for tuning in, who's watching this live right now in the section. Josh Harris, we will definitely add you to the Growers Club. You don't have to worry about that.
Thanks, Josh.
And guys, go ahead and keep your questions coming. Ladies, keep your questions coming. Also, we will be able to add these questions to the next slide. I think for now, that's about it. Aja, would you like to summarize some of the topics we discussed today?
Yeah, so I was really thrilled and excited to talk about climate change, natural catastrophes. I definitely think it's something that's important, even if you're a commercial or a home grower. I have a lab set up in a basement. I am 200 feet away from a flood zone, and yes, I bought flood insurance because it's just too important to me. My grow is too important to me, and because I'm outside of the flood zone, it's actually a little bit cheaper. But I've seen so many flood maps be wrong. So if you're a home grower and you're in a flood zone, you need to know. If you're close to a flood zone, you should also be concerned. I basically say, if you can see water, you need to be worried about it. And yes, I may say water a little bit funny. I'm from Philly, it's the Philly accent. We say water. But yeah, we talked about climate change, we talked about natural catastrophe, rainfall, hurricanes, all that type of stuff, how it'll affect your crops, how it will affect your bottom line, how it can affect your investment. And we also talked about the update on the plant. We've got about 12 inches of growth since the last grow. We're happy with that. We're at about 1 inch a day. Talked about how to get access to the plant, the different sizes that we have available. And if you want to know what we can do for you, if you're wondering how many do you need, how many can we supply you with, the best way to find out is to ask. So please reach out to us in the Growers Club, hit us up on the DM, and we will get back to you as soon as possible. But thank you very much, everyone. If you're watching this on the replay, thank you again for taking some time out of your day to watch it on the replay. We're going to put this up on YouTube, so subscribe to us on YouTube if you are a YouTuber, and we're also going to put this on Facebook. So I think we're good. Are we good, Dash?
We are good, and everyone, be sure to tune in with us July 29th at 8 p.m. EST, and thanks for tuning in today.
Thank you very much. All right, everyone, have a good evening or morning, wherever you are. Peace and love.